Everything you think you know about what ancient humans ate is wrong. Not slightly wrong. Not, well, actually, there's nuance, wrong. Fundamentally, structurally, embarrassingly wrong. And I need you to hear me out, because by the end of this, you're going to look at your own lunch differently. Maybe even feel a little guilty about it. But we'll get there. So. The image in your head right now. I can see it. A hairy guy crouched over a fire, tearing into a massive hunk of mammoth meat, grease running down his chin. Maybe a woman in the background chewing on some berries. That's the picture. That's what caveman diet means to 99% of people. And it is almost entirely a fantasy invented by 20th century cartoonists and then sold back to us by supplement companies. Here's what the actual bones tell us. And I mean literal chemical analysis of ancient skeletons, isotope ratios locked into tooth enamel over tens of thousands of years. For most of human history, across most of the world, the majority of daily calories came from plants. 60, 70, sometimes 80%. Tubers. Roots. Nuts. Seeds. Wild grains. Fruits. Leaves. Fungi. Meat was not the default. Meat was the event. Meat was the thing that happened when the group got lucky, and everyone gathered around, and it felt like a celebration. Not a Tuesday. And even that word, ancient humans, is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Because we're talking about 2.5 million years of eating. 2.5 million. That's not a diet. That's not a meal plan. That is an entire evolutionary saga played out across every climate zone on Earth. A group living on the coast of South Africa 100,000 years ago was cracking open mussels and roasting seabird eggs. A group in what is now the Sahara, which back then was green and wet and teeming with life, was harvesting wild catfish and grinding grass seeds. Same species. Same era. Completely different dinner plates. There was no single Paleo menu. There never was. But I promised you something specific. So let me build you a day. One single day of eating, reconstructed from real archaeological evidence, for a community of about 30 people living in the Fertile Crescent, roughly 10,000 years before present. No farming yet. They're close. They can see it coming. But they're not there. They're still gathering, still moving, still reading the landscape like a book. You wake up. You're hungry. And the first thing you eat is probably yesterday's leftovers. A flat, dense cake made from crushed wild emmer wheat and barley, ground between two stones, mixed with water, pressed onto a hot rock. No salt. No oil. No butter. It's chewy. It's a little gritty because tiny fragments of the grinding stone get into the flour and you just eat them. You eat 2 of these. Maybe 3. This is breakfast. Nobody's making it elaborate. You eat, you move. Mid-morning, the group splits. Some people head toward the river. Some go up into the hills. You go into the hills. And for the next 3 hours, you are not hunting. You are not chasing antelope across the savannah. You are picking. You are pulling up tubers with a sharpened stick. You are cracking open wild pistachios. You are plucking figs from a tree you've been visiting since you were a kid because you know exactly when they ripen. You scoop a handful of ants from a mound because they're fatty and they're right there. You find 2 bird eggs under a shrub. You pocket them. You dig up a thick, starchy root that will be your main energy source today, the way rice is for half the planet now. By noon your pouch is heavy. You snack while you walk. A few grubs. Some berries. A handful of wild lentils you'll cook later. And I want to pause on the insects for a second, because we've been trained to feel disgusted by them. But for ancient humans, bugs were not desperation food. They were not, oh no, we couldn't find anything else. They were efficient, dense, reliable protein. A handful of termites has more protein per gram than a ribeye. And in many regions, insects were actively preferred. Cultivated, even. Harvested seasonally. They were a feature of the diet, not a bug. Pun intended. Now. Dinner. And this is where I need you to stay with me, because this is where it gets genuinely strange. For decades, the model was simple. Ancient humans ate from the land. Forest. Plains. Riverbank. Done. But in 2023, a research team scraped fossilized plaque off 12,000-year-old teeth and analyzed the microscopic plant remains trapped inside. And they found something nobody expected. Starch granules from cattail roots. Phytoliths from water lily rhizomes. Aquatic plants. Marsh plants. Swamp food. These people were wading into muddy wetlands, pulling up roots from underwater, processing them, cooking them down into a starchy porridge. Deliberately. Regularly. Especially in winter when everything else died back. The swamp was a pantry. And we just didn't know until we looked at the actual teeth. So that night, the group gathers. And dinner is not a roasted haunch over a fire. It's a communal pot. A stew. Tubers, lentils, whatever greens got collected that day, maybe some smoked fish, maybe a handful of grasshoppers tossed in for fat. Everyone eats from the same vessel. No portions. No plates. You scoop, you eat, you stop when you're full. Nobody's counting calories. Nobody's optimizing protein intake. They're eating what the landscape handed them this week, and next week it'll be something different. And that's the thing that should actually hit you. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups, the ones we still have data from, show they rotate through 100, 200, sometimes over 300 different species of plants and animals in a single year. 300. Compare that to yourself. Be honest. How many different things did you eat last week? 15? 20? Maybe 30 if you're adventurous. A modern human walking through a supermarket with 40,000 products still ends up cycling through the same 30 items on repeat. Ancient humans, with no grocery store, no supply chain, no refrigeration, were eating more variety than you. More than me. More than almost anyone alive today. And that's not a fun fact. That's a lesson. Because we built an entire billion-dollar industry on a fantasy version of the ancient plate. The Paleo brand. The ancestral marketing. Steak and eggs, 0 grains, 0 legumes, 0 anything that isn't muscle meat. And the evidence says no. They ate grains. They ate legumes. They ate swamp roots. They ate insects. They ate an almost incomprehensible diversity of plants. The one thing they almost never did was eat the same meal twice in a row. The real takeaway from 12,000 years of human eating isn't a specific food. It isn't a macro ratio. It's a principle. Diversity. Seasonality. Eating what's actually there, not what's convenient. Understanding that your body was shaped by variety, by rotation, by the slow rhythm of landscape and season. You don't need to go forage cattail roots in a ditch. I tried reconstructing that stew, by the way. I'll link the research below. It tastes like a very earthy, very humble, very honest porridge. I respect it deeply. I would not eat it every day. But I respect it. But maybe, tomorrow, when you build a plate, you ask yourself one question. Is this the most varied I could make it? Could I add one thing I've never tried? One root, one seed, one leaf I've walked past 100 times without looking twice? Because that impulse, that curiosity, that refusal to eat the same thing every day, that is the most ancient human trait there is. Older than fire. Older than language. Older than farming. It's the thing that kept us alive for 2.5 million years. And we kind of forgot it. Sitting in our kitchens with our 30 rotating groceries and our meal prep containers and our Paleo protein bars made in a factory. We forgot. So remember. Go eat something new this week. Something weird. Something your ancestors would recognize. And if this made you rethink even one meal, subscribe, because I do this every week. Food history. Forgotten science. The stuff the textbooks skipped. Drop a comment and tell me what surprised you. Was it the swamp roots? The ants? The fact that porridge is 12,000 years old? I want to know. I'll see you in the next one.